So I've gotten quite a few emails and actually some PMs as well asking about more information on the Goggle switch and how I mount the battery. So because there was so much interest, I decided I would actually make a case that held it. And you see in this image is my original design, and notice that the switch is actually pointed forward. And I decided after using it for a little bit that it'd be nice if that switch was actually in the back. So here's a look at the 3D printed case that I designed. That's a two-part case, and you can see that whenever the parts are laid out, they actually print without supports. Also, whenever you put this case together, you're going to put it together so that the opening, or the side that the switch goes into, is going to be on the XT30 side, and the closed end is actually going to sit over the XT60, and this is what's going to hold the XT60 in place so that it does not lift up. The wire that connects the XT30 and the XT60 connector are what's going to hold the connector inside the case and keep it from coming out on either end. Now you can put this together two ways. You can either CA glue it and then wrap it with heat shrink, or you can forego the CA glue and just wrap it with heat shrink. And I decided to go ahead and use the CA glue and the shrink wrap, because then that way I don't have to worry about it, and really there's no need to take it apart because it's actually pretty durable in that I've used a 5 amp dust waterproof type switch, so there's really no reason to ever get back in here. So what I'm going to do now is just show some stills of the switch mechanism being put together, and then how I actually mount it and what it looks like when it's finished. It's pretty simple. The main thing is wiring up the switch, and in my case what I do, you can see here that I start by soldering a lead to the XT ground, the XT60 ground, and then I coat that with solder to make it stiff, and then I adjust its length so that it matches up with the XT30 on the other side. This length is critical. I also use a couple of pieces of shrink wrap, one over the other. So I'll put one on, shrink it down, and then slide the other one over, and then solder the other side, and then pull it back, and then shrink the shrink wrap down on the wire. Once I do that, then I just add the switch to the top of it, and I basically hold it in position and cut the wire to length, soldering one side and then soldering the other side. So on the switch, one leg of the switch goes to the XT30 positive, and the other leg of the switch goes to the XT60 positive. And then of course you route these so that you can actually take this whole contraption here and place it into the fixture. And I use a little bit of CA on the edges and on the bottom, so that the connector has a little bit more to bite to. And then of course add the top on and push the switch in, and you can put a little glue on the radius part of the switch box, and then add the shrink wrap and shrink it down, and then your switch is secure. And here's a look at two of them that I've done, and you can see that the mechanism actually works really well as far as holding the switch in place. The connector is held in place, so this little apparatus here does a really good job, and I no longer have to unplug and plug up my goggles in order to power them if I'm using a different battery. So with that, I've probably given you enough information. I will make the STL file available for free. If you want to print it, feel free to do so. Also, here's a little trick that I use as far as holding the battery. You see you have the strap, and then I have another sleeve that I made that's out of ripstop repair tape. So I put the battery in place and then slide the wires into that sleeve, and then I've left two little tabs, one on either side of the sleeve, so I can grab that tab and pull it up over the battery. And then this secures the battery so there's no chance of the battery falling out. Then I just simply bend the wire around and plug it into the, in this case, the XT30 side of the connector, and you see the push button switch there. So if I want to turn it on, just push the button. Turn it off, I push the button again, and here's a look at the finished switch mount with the battery in place. And you can also see a little strain relief zip tie that connects it to the mounting bracket for the strap. And here it is from the back side, and here's what it looks like when you put it on your head. And here's a final look from what it was, and then after 3D printing a switch mount, the finished result now with a 3D printed switch cover.